Definitely there are some books that probably they are not translated, but they touch upon this subject. The right of the minorities, or they call them in the fiqh language, terminology, they call them Ahlul Dhimma. Ahlul Dhimma are those minorities, non-Muslim minorities, who live under the Islamic protection, Islamic society. So definitely they have rights. They have right to worship, they have rights to build their temples, they have rights to their dietary system, they have right to their legal system too, meaning they can have their marriages, divorces, transactions being done in their own judiciaries, And even in some countries, they allow them to drink wine, but within their homes and within their neighborhoods. They can sell wine if that is, okayed in their own traditions. So they can even, purchase a wine from the market, but their own markets, not outside, their own private market. So they have civil rights, they have, social rights, they have religious rights. But some fuqaha, scholars, they say they are exempted from military service. They don't have to send their children. They don't have to if they don't want to. But in return, they have to pay special taxation. But if they participate in the military service, just like other members of the society, they don't, in that case, they would not pay that special taxation.
In terms of ethics and principles, is everything also for the
They are treated equally with the rest of the society, of course. They are full citizens. They are full citizens. Being non-Muslim would not make any difference under the law.
Right, then my second part is about the good deeds. Do the non-Muslims need to do can they go to the paradise? And if they do, do they have to do still things in the barzakh? Or how many good deeds do the non-Muslims have to do compared to the good deeds that the Muslims have to do to go to the same place?
Let me answer you in general terms. In this book, there is a very important verse. I read the verse last night during the prayers. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. If a person, an individual, be it Muslim or non-Muslim, any person, any human, does an atom weight of goodness, he will see goodness. And if he does an atom weight of evil, he will see evil. So any goodness that any human being does is not going to be wasted. It is going to be noticed and rewarded by God, even if he does not believe in God. So this is guaranteed. God says, any good deed you do in this life, you're going to see the result of it there. This is one issue. The issue of going to paradise is separated from that. You're going to be rewarded. If someone is non-Muslim, definitely is going to be rewarded for the good deeds that they do in this life. But whether they go to paradise or not, that belongs to God. We don't know. Even Muslims, is it guaranteed that we go to paradise? We don't know. It's up to God. And the keys of paradise is only in God's pocket. It's not in my pocket. Neither in anyone else's pocket. God is the ultimate judge on that day. God can send all people to paradise. Also, He can send all people to hellfire. And nobody can question Him. But of course, there is divine justice. He would not do that. But He can. This is His jurisdiction. So whether He's going to take the non-believers, non-Muslims to paradise or not, we really don't know. But their duty in this life is to accept Islam. Their duty is to accept Islam. Whether God is going to send them to paradise or someone else, we don't know. He's the only one who knows. Most scholars, they say no problem with donating your organs after death to Muslims, only Muslims. There is a small part of the Muslim jurists, fuqaha and jurists, who say if you are saving the lives of others, then you may donate your organs, even if that person is not a Muslim. If that person is in a state in emergency, he's going to die, and your kidney, your liver, your heart, whatever is going to save his or her life, then there is no problem. You can donate them your organ. So it depends on which scholar you follow. After death, death is the separation of the soul from the body. So the body is going to be buried, and it is going to be disintegrated after some years. We are not going into another body. We are going to be in a spiritual realm and shape. And therefore, that is alam al-barzakh, of course. That's the partition between this life and the hereafter. So we're going to be in our spiritual shape, not in a different body. This body that we have is going to be disintegrated. Now the question here is whether are we allowed to write in our will that yes, I agree to give my kidney, my organs, to someone. Many scholars, few of them say no, very few. Majority of them say yes, but it has to go to a Muslim. A minority of them, they say yes, it can go to any human being. We don't look at the religion, we look at the need. If you are saving the life of someone, then they can take your organs from you with your permission, not without your permission. Some people, they don't give permission. They want to be buried. They want to be burned and cremated. It's up to them, because you have control over your body. But if you give permission, some of them say only to the Muslims, others say no, you can give it to non-Muslims too. I think you have to be patient and tolerant, because many people do not accept. Many people still live during the Ice Age, They don't believe in gender equality. They don't. Many scholars, they don't believe in that. Many scholars, they say women, God created women to serve men. This is why God created her. They are scholars. But this is not right. When we read the book with openness, without prejudice, then we find out that God created man to serve women, and yes, He created women to serve man. They have to serve each other. The life depends on cooperation, mutual serving, mutual protection. هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُمْ. Both of you have to protect each other. But some people, because of the social backlash, yes, it is there, In some countries, they take you to jail. If you speak about women's rights, you end up in jail. Some countries. But you have to resist. You have to resist. You have to fight for your rights. You can't get your rights easily. It takes generations. It takes many decades. I'll give you an example. In Saudi Arabia, women were fighting for their rights to drive for 50 years. 50 years. They just got it recently. They are now fighting for other rights, to be equal partners. It takes them another 50 years to achieve that. But وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. If you work hard, if you don't give up, if you don't despair, if you continue your journey, if you resist, you get what you want. You get what you want. And therefore, we also, the Muslims in our societies, we have to understand this, that no society can function properly today if we neglect half of that society. If we look down at women and we think that God created them for the kitchen, for serving, for cleaning, and that's it. This is not the Islamic view, but you have to fight for it. Men, one day are not going to say, yes, I'll give you your rights. You have to go after it, and you have to seek it, and you have to fight and sacrifice for it. First of all, let's consider a very important point. When you say, I want my children you are not going to be able to want that in the future. If you live in this country, your son, your daughter by the age of 14, 15 are not yours anymore. They are not going to follow you. Trust me on this. When they get to the age of marriage, 20, 25, they are not going to come to you and say, Baba, which one do you want me to marry? You are the last one to know about it. You are the last one to know. You receive an invitation card by mail, believe me, that this is the date of my wedding, come and attend. So you cannot say, I don't want my children. Yes, you don't want, this is back in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt. But here, different norms. Different norms. Here, parents have no control over the marriage of their children. They have no say over that.
Respectfully, I do not agree with you.
Because you don't have children, you don't agree with me. Tomorrow when you have children, you will agree with me.
No, when I'm looking at my parents and the way I behave and...
You came as an immigrant. You were not born here.
I was 3 years old, yes.
Yes, so still you are immigrant. You are the first generation. But when the second generation comes, these cultural views and norms are going to, dissipate, are going to melt down. And then the prevalent culture here is going to dominate. Because your children are going to go to school here, their friends are Dutch people, and their concepts, their ideas. So you may advise your children, yes, but when they fall in love with anyone, you cannot say to your son, don't marry her. He would not listen to you. As to the second point, whether this is going, more commonalities is going to bring more stability, yes, it could be true. It could be true, but it is not necessarily true. Because I have seen, listen to what I am saying, please. I have seen people marry their first cousin. First cousin. Do you have commonality more than that? Okay, same blood, same color, same family, same house, same neighborhood, same culture, same ideas, same shape. And then after 6 months, they separate. He's marrying his first cousin. His first cousin. Maybe they grew up together, 20 years together. 25 years they were playing together. And then after 6 months they get divorced. So it does not necessarily mean more commonalities does not mean a safe marriage. What really makes a difference is when they are compatible in their ideas. This one has to be compatible, not the blood, not the food, the brain, and the understanding, their outlook to this life, their dreams, their aspirations. I mentioned today we were walking on the beach here to some friends that I've seen some people married to their first cousins and it ended up in divorce because he was mistreating her, there was domestic violence, they were fighting, clashes. Then the lady, after she divorced her first cousin, she married an American man, an American convert. And now she has a beautiful life with him. He respects her, she respects him. They get along well. So race and blood and family does not guarantee that they're going to live happy.
Maybe just coming back to the first point, Sayyidina, I think you do not mean that you cannot influence your children and raise them up the way you want to raise them up, because I think that's a possibility, that's what you have to do. But eventually when the decision-making comes, at that moment the influence will be less.
Do you have a mayor in your town? Can you translate?
Heb je een burgemeester in je stad?
Can a town run without a mayor? Smoothly run without a mayor, without having a mayor? Just people are nice, good, they respect each other, there is no need for a mayor.
Begrijp je het of niet? Ja.
Yes or no?
Ja, je hebt een burgemeester nodig.
You need a mayor.
You need a mayor. Why do you need a mayor?
Anders gaat gewoon, dan gaat alles maar een beetje fout.
Everything will be wrong, and I think you mean a chaos kind of thing.
So you answered yourself. This universe needs a mayor. Someone who organizes people's life. someone who upholds not only the planet Earth. Planet Earth is nothing compared to the entire universe. Is nothing. There's nothing. Small dot. There is another world there. So we need a leader. We need a director to keep it together, to keep the organization, to uphold this system. So in the same way that a town cannot survive with a mayor, even if people are educated, nice, civilized, but they need someone. The prime minister, you need a prime minister in this country. Even if the people are perfect, 17 million Dutch are perfect, but they still need a prime minister to run their affairs, to be responsible, someone responsible about the country. This is why we need God. Maybe we don't see God, but we feel Him. We feel Him. You feel Him in your heart. Sometimes when He answers you, you petition to Him, you call upon Him, maybe 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 month, He will answer you. So this is the simplest and the most basic proof that there is a Lord in this universe who's taking care of this. See, you don't see Him, but again, you might not see the mayor. Do you see the mayor every day? You don't see him. You don't even know his name, but there is a mayor. Why? Because reason tells you there is a mayor. If there is no mayor, it will be chaotic. There is a prime minister. You don't see the prime minister. You don't see him. But there is a prime minister because the country is well organized. The same thing in this university. We might not see God with our eyes, but we see Him with our brain. Yes, this is an old question that has been answered 30 years ago when people moved to this country. The interest you pay could be switched into service charge. So rather than calling it interest when you pay the mortgage to the bank, they call it service charge. They gave you money, they lend you money. Now when you give the payments back, you give more than the principal, and that extra money that they are charging you, it could be called service charge. So there is no problem with that. Yes, if you yourself, you do not manage the alcohol yourself, you don't touch it, you don't put it on shelf, then you can work in that supermarket. Or, let me tell you something more than that. You are working as a cashier in a supermarket and there is alcohol. If the customer himself brings the alcohol to the desk and he puts it in a bag and you don't touch it, you still can charge him. And there is nothing wrong, because you are not the owner of the alcohol. You are not the owner of the store. There is an owner, you are working for him. So as long as you are not helping, you are just taking the money, then still you can do that, no problem. You cannot say this is charity. This is some type of goodness that you do to your society, to protect your society.
So
but it cannot be considered khums or zakat. Don't use
sadaqa.
Yeah. Ud'uhum li'aba'ihim. The rules are mentioned very clearly in the Quran. Ud'uhum li'aba'ihim. Number 1, do not change the last name of the child. Or if you want to change the last name of that child, and you know his original biological last name, then it has to be in cooperation with the child and his or her acceptance. This is number 1. Number 2, you have to tell them that you are not their biological parents. You have to tell them, don't conceal that from them. Maybe in the beginning they are children, they don't realize, maybe it would hurt them, but as they grow, you have to inform them that I am not your biological mother, I'm not your biological father. This is number 2. Number 3, then we have the rules of mahram and non-mahram. So if you adopt a son by the age of 12, 13, whatever, the age of puberty, then that mother, the stepmother, has to observe hijab, because this is not her biological son. Or if she's a girl, then she has to wear the hijab from her stepfather. If the rules of the hospital, they tell you that you cannot work here without short sleeves, then for the purpose of emergency, not as a norm, but as an exception, she can do that for some period of time. If she cannot defy the rules, and if they don't give her any exception, they tell her you must follow, then she has no choice. You did not do full research.
I know that I haven't seen everything.
If you open both Sunni books and Shia books, you will find عن عائشة عن رسول الله, عن فاطمة عن رسول الله, عن أم سلمة قالت أنها قال رسول الله. So there are some women, but not compared to men. Probably that is even less than 0.5%.
But what does that has that to do with gender equality? The way women were not allowed to speak out, or
no? At that time, women were confined. That was the norm of the day. They were confined to their homes. They would rarely venture outside the house. So they were not treated equally with men. The Prophet was struggling, but he could not create a miracle. It took him time. It took him time to teach the people, you have to respect your women, you have to allow them to study. He himself, he dedicated one day a week only for women, to teach women, which did not exist before. He allowed them to come to the battlefield as fighters and warriors sometimes, and as nurses other times. And he allowed them to work, to establish businesses. His wife was a businesswoman. So it took him time, but he could not switch the society 180 degrees within a short period of time. He would encourage men to respect, even in his mosque. He would allow them to come and pray with him and listen to his speech, and sometimes they would stand and ask questions. Ya Rasulullah, I have this and this. If you read the history, a lady stood and she said, Ya Rasulullah, answer my question. That means that he welcomed them and encourage them to come to the mosque to pray and to learn and to ask.
Are you allowed to read Quran in the name of the infallibles, or is it better to read Quran in the name of fallible people?
What do you mean in the name of?
I think you send the thawab.
No, you can read the Quran and ask God to give the reward to any person. Any person. Any person, doesn't have to be infallibles.
Putting the Quran on the head during dua of Laylat al-Qadr. What's the purpose of that, and are there any references?
This is man-made tradition. Doesn't have roots, you know. This is man-made as a gesture of respect that we carry the Quran and we ask God by this book, so we carry it. But if you don't put it on your head, it's not a big deal. If you are confused about something, you don't know whether to do or not to do, to buy, not to buy, to marry this person, not to marry, then do 2 rak'ah, just like the morning prayers. But the niyyah of that prayers is to consult with God. Oh God, I'm confused about this and I really need your opinion on this. And then pray the salat, and there is a dua after the salat. After that, some ulama, they say that look at your feeling, what feeling you have. God is going to send you a message. Some people, they get the message, they act upon it. Some people don't get the message. So it doesn't mean that you definitely are going to get a message. Some people say, do the salat and then go to the Quran. And then read, there is certain du'as, and then open the Quran from wherever. And then look at the first. Look at the first ayah here. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنْفَالِ قُلِ الْأَنْفَالُ لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ وَأَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ. This is good. These words are of encouragement. So this means that you may do that act. Or sometimes it becomes like this one. وَإِنْ يُرِيدُوا أَنْ يَخْدَعُوكَ فَإِنَّ حَسْبَكَ اللَّهِ. So don't do this. This is about deceive. They're going to deceive you. So depending on your understanding, or if you don't understand, you may ask people who understand the book. Equal visiting is good if you have the resources for it. But let's say your parents live in another city and it takes you 3 hours to get there. It takes you, you have to put gas in your car. In your country, gas is very expensive. So if you can do that, if it is manageable within your, ability, then do it. But if that takes, a lot of effort and, it's tiring, exhausting, then you don't have to do the equal visitations. Whatever is manageable, accessible. You have to be realistic in this.
Okay, and I think you mentioned already the importance of visiting family, visiting your own.
Yeah, when you have time, definitely. See, families in the past, they used to live in the same alleyway, in the same neighborhood, next door. So you leave your house, after 30 seconds you are in your mother's house. After, 2 minutes you are in your father-in-law's house. Nowadays, we live in different cities. Sometimes we have to take an airplane to fly. So Islam does not tell me that you have to go every month, once a month. It depends. We have to be realistic. If they are close to us, we go. If not, then God created something called WhatsApp. WhatsApp them and send pictures and call them and talk to them. Yes. First of all, there is no government on earth which is not completely safe of corruption. No government. Second, if you are working as a law enforcement agent, a security agent, a police agent, then your intention is to protect the country, is to protect it against corruption, against crimes. So you are allowed to take a salary, a return for the service that you are doing. Some scholars say that if such a child that is going to be either mentally incapacitated or physically disabled is going to create hardship. Usr and haraj, this is the word that they use, usr and haraj. Hardship and distress for his or parents, then they may abort that child. If they cannot handle it, too much for them, they don't have money, they don't have place, they don't have energy, they can't. And therefore the child is going to be neglected, then in that case, the case of usr and haraj, they can abort the child. I have done, 20 years ago, my master's degree, it's about this type of a question, 20 years ago. So, and I did an extensive research into all, and my theme is على المذاهب الإسلامية الخمسة الزواج المختلط في الإسلام على المذاهب الإسلامية الخمسة, the mixed marriages between religions according to 5 traditions, the 4 Sunni traditions and the 1 Imami Ja'fari tradition. And I have never found any scholar from that time until now who would agree with the idea of a non-Muslim marrying a Muslim lady. Altogether reject that. However, many of them accept that a Muslim marries a non-Muslim. Many of them. But in the Shia tradition, again, the scholars of the Imami tradition, they say a Muslim man can marry a non-Muslim only on temporary basis, not permanent. And temporary could go for 40 years, 50 years. So they do the marriage contract and she says to him, I marry you for the next 40 years, 50 years. Okay, temporary does not have to be 1 day or 1 year or 1 week. It could be 40 years, 50 years. So this is the view of the scholars. Now we come to the second part. Why? Isn't this discrimination?
I think so.
You think so? It's not about discrimination. It's about organizing your life. Because now I see in America, as an imam in the community, that people, they marry from different faiths. One of them is Muslim, the other is non-Muslim. So they decided to get married because they loved each other. Then after marriage they had children. And now they are fighting whether the son or the daughter should go to the church or the mosque. They are fighting over that. Some of them are getting divorced over this issue. Because the Muslim wants to send his child to the mosque. The Christian says, the Catholic says, no, I want him to go to the church. I don't want him to be a Muslim. Though they loved each other, they agreed with each other, they fall in love in the beginning, they had no problem. But once they had family and children, then the problem started to happen. Why? Because they did not settle this issue from before.
So it's an important issue to settle before you get married.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how to settle it? Because they're going to disagree later on. So the best thing to settle it is to ask the man to accept Islam. So we have one religion, we have no problem. Because even if sometimes they agree that, okay, you practice Christianity, I practice Islam, we respect each other, down the road, later on, there will be some problems.
Will always be, of course. But I think
So we have to try to settle it. This is one issue. The second is that a Muslim like me, I believe in Jesus. I respect Jesus. Jesus is mentioned in my book 64 times. Jesus is mentioned in this book 64 times. There is a whole chapter is named after his mother Mary. I love him. Sometimes we name our children Isa, Jesus, but the Christians, they don't. Many of them, they don't believe in Muhammad. They don't even respect him. They don't believe he's a prophet. They don't believe in this book. I believe the Bible is from God, though it has been altered and changed, but I still respect the Bible. I still respect the church. Islam says, if I go to a city and there is no mosque, and this is the time of the prayers, Islam says to me, go and do your prayers inside the church, because this church belongs to God. So we respect the Christians, we respect their ideology, we respect their prophets, we respect their books, we respect their freedom of worship. But the Christians don't do this to the Muslims. They do not reciprocate. Same thing with Judaism. This is why Islam says, I want to secure the rights of the Muslims. Because if she marry a non-Muslim, he would not respect her religion. Maybe he will, maybe he not. Who guarantees? So let's settle this issue from the beginning. Are you with me? Yeah, I got you. Many Muslim societies and countries are helping the refugees. Maybe we don't hear about that. I know about Yemen. Many Muslim organizations in America, they are sending money, sending medicine, sending food. And definitely in Europe you do the same. So the Muslims are doing that, definitely. But as governments, you cannot count on Muslim governments, because none of them is Islamic. None of those 55 countries of the Muslim organization, we have a Muslim conference called, and it has 55 members, majority Muslims. None of them are truly Islamic. They care about themselves. They don't care about others. So this is the problem. It is named, it is called Islamic society, but it's not. The behavior is not necessarily 100% Islamic. But we count on the people. People of goodwill, we have plenty of them among the Muslims, inside Muslim countries and outside Muslim countries, and they are doing the work. They are working, doing charities, helping the people in Somalia, in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq, in Libya, in Afghanistan, and in other, even helping non-Muslims. Sending medicine, food. I know some Muslim organizations in America who send help, humanitarian help and aid to some non-Muslim societies, Christians, Buddhists, because they are human beings.
Yeah, but how can we force our politicians, because they are our representatives in the international
I tell you how you force.
aspect?
I tell you how you force. How long you've been here in the Netherlands?
It has been just 3 months.
3 months. Where do you come from?
I come from Afghanistan.
Inshallah, you stay here for some years, you study, you work, and then you go back to Afghanistan and you become a candidate for the parliament, and you go through the government, and you and your friends in Afghanistan, the people of Iraq, the people of Syria, they will change the situation, inshallah.
Yeah, hopefully we need these movements in every Islamic country.
And we have to do it, because God says in this book, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ.
And it will also improve our Prophet's manner. We can show it in our activities and behaviors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to end up the war and terrorism in the name of Islam, but bring more innovative.
It needs people like you. People like you, when they go back home, they bring a new thinking, a new manners. They learn from here to be more sincere, more dedicated, to fight corruption. And slowly, slowly we're going to change, inshallah. Slowly, slowly.